How many of you guys like to throw topwater?
Everybody.
Okay, everybody. Well, that's why you're here, to learn about topwater, I take it. Okay. One thing you're going to hear me mention a lot, and Bobby mention a lot tonight, is going to be discipline and patience. Okay. No matter what bait we throw, I'm going to start it off with the buzz bait. If you want to do good in a tournament throwing topwater, or if you want to go out for the day with your girlfriend, your wife, your son, your daughter, whatever, and do good, you're going to have both those. They're huge key ingredients. Okay. I don't care how good the bite is. There's going to be days when you go out with a topwater and you're not going to catch them. Okay. And there's a few key ingredients that go along with that to catch them. And we're going to talk about that right now with a buzz bait. How many people throw a buzz bait? Okay. When you throw it, you just go out and throw it, wing it, start going down a bank, correct? Most of the time? Okay. One of the things that we like to do, especially this time of the year in the summertime, this summer's been a little off because of all the wind that we've had. Usually we get a lot more days where it's flat pancake weather, okay? The biggest mistake I see guys make with a buzz bait in the summertime is two things. They're reeling it too fast and it's too loud, okay? On those pancake days, when you're targeting the kind, and when I say the kind, fish that are 4 pounds on up, okay, those are the ones that count as far as, that's how me and Bobby look at it. 4 pounders on up. Anything below that, you're probably not going to be doing very good in the tournament. This is a 3-wing buzz bait. It's a plastic bait. You guys see the big old trailer I got on there? We like black. I put a big lizard on there. A lot of guys, they see this bait and they say, man, that's a big old bait right there. I don't want to throw that. Once again, we're targeting fish that are 4 pounds on up, okay? This is a bait you just can't go out and catch 25 fish on. It's not going to happen. Let me backtrack. It might happen. If it does, you need to call me or Bobby and let us know, because I would really like to see 25 fish that eat this, what kind of limit you're going to have. Most of the time on this buzz bait, you're going to get probably at the most 3 to 6 bites on it. Pretty boring bait to throw, but the bites you get on this, they're going to have mouths like that most of the time, okay? And when they scoop it, you're going to know it's gone. They scoop it. The reason they scoop it like that is when we pitch this bait out, or if we're throwing it, most of the time we pitch it. If we're going down a Tule bank, we don't get, the old basic 101 rule is parallel your structure, throw down, bring it along. A lot of times we'll go down a bank and we'll pitch precise bait placement. If you can't get it into that little pocket or right on that little piece of wood or on that bend in the tules, then you need to not even go out and fish with it. Get in your garage, work on pitching this and any other bait, and so you can hit your targets, okay?
Most of the buzz bait bites that Chris and I fish for, like he was saying, we're not throwing parallel with the weed line, a 20-yard throw, coming back, you're fishing effective water for about 15 yards and wind it back and throw again, or move off and throw it at 45. We don't do that with buzz baits. We're fishing, for the most part, about a garbage can size lid spot, or potential spot. Every time we pitch that buzz bait, it's at a potential spot. And then you're right here. And both of us, we look like sewing machines going down. And he's throwing a white one, or I'm throwing a white one, it's back. We never both throw the same bait color. And you will usually see, depending on light level usually and water clarity, that one color will outperform the other one, but the one that's outperforming usually doesn't get the better bite. That's happening a lot with the frogs right now too. But one of us has always got a black one of us has always got a white one. And we will let surface chop determine, like Chris said in the beginning, what type of blade configuration we will use on that buzzbait. If it's pancake flat calm, we're either going to be walking a frog or we're going to be throwing the triple wing plastic. Real subtle presence. Purr, 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 purr. Or we got a new toy that we play with during those same situations, and that's the Trixie Shad. Trixie Shad has probably got the absolute perfect topwater sound. It's a very subtle purr on the surface. In big chop, yeah, they still eat it. How they find it, I have no idea, but they will still eat it. But usually in those types of situations where we've got, let's say, 4 to 10 inch chop, then we will usually take that buzzbait off with the 3-wing, the more quiet buzzbait. We'll take that off and we'll replace that with either a 3 or 4 wing with the clacker or a metal with clacker. We want more sound. We want to bring more attention to that bait that's on the surface as it's riding those waves. So that's, you know, that's a little bit on that. And just to back up a little bit, we throw topwater after May 15th. It's like we throw topwater till September 15th. You know, and then sometimes to October 1st. I mean, and that's all we do. If we have to flip, and you see us flipping, we're in trouble. Actually, right today, I lost one on a flipping stick. I was telling Jim Conlon, I lost one on a flipping stick today that I have no idea how big this thing is.
I told him if I was there, I could have caught it on the frog.
It was incredible. Very, very unexpected bite on a flipping stick. But we fish for minimal bites, and it takes a lot of discipline. And the reason we can do that, especially during a tournament day, is because of the amount of confidence that he and I both have in a topwater bait. And we just evaluate the conditions, evaluate the type of weather that you had over the prior 24, 48 hours, and then make your lure choice. You might have to have something that is a continuous movement, continuous commotion on the surface, or if Mountain Diablo's got a big old sombrero on it, you've got a ton of confidence in your topwater lures, but maybe they won't eat the buzzbait today. So, but they want noise, but they want something that will stop. The frog, we got too much chop on the water, we can't walk that, nope, it doesn't have enough presence. So we've got to opt for something that brings attention to the bait. However, the fish are not in a chasing mood, so we need something that will stop, i.e. like a devil's horse, perfect, a wood chopper, stop, stop. We do that a lot. We don't like throwing those particular baits because they got a lot of treble hooks and we can't throw them where we get our big quality bites in the vegetation. So that's why we almost always prefer to either get that frog or the buzzbait bite to go, and then if that doesn't work, then we got to make a few variations. But we can also, you know, it's like a pitcher. You know, the count's 3 and 2. It's Barry Bonds. Your best pitch is your curveball, but you don't have a whole lot of confidence in it because you missed it the last couple innings. But you come with the curveball 3 and 2 to Barry Bonds. You know what I mean? It's you go with your you can pick up that pitch or whatever it may be with 100% confidence, even though it hasn't been working. You haven't used it for a month and a half, whatever it may be. But you can pull out that wood chopper because you had 2 big swirls on your buzzbait. They just didn't want to fully commit and come through the surface to grab that bait. They'll eat it on top. We just got to make it a little more convenient for them.
And speaking of those swirls, we got something to try to catch those bad boys too. Okay, real quick back on this one. Flat pancake water, 3-wing, big bait. If it's too big, don't use a trailer, okay? We don't use a trailer hook. We used to. Where we're throwing a lot, there's weeds combined with tules, rocks, wood, all of that. Guys say that the trailer hook makes a big difference. Yeah, we've caught a couple on trailer hooks that have made some good paychecks for us. Most of the time we don't do it, okay? The real important about this right here, though, is the rod and the line, okay? If you're going to go out and throw topwater, especially starting with this buzzbait right here, you better have braid on. Do not go out there with 15-pound test because you've done it at Lake Shasta or Oroville or something like that. Hey, if you're catching on buzzbaits on the lakes like that, that's fine. You will get your day ruined out here on this river because the one day when you're going down saying, that ball and bear, they pump the buzzbaits in front, I'm getting no bites, that's actually a cool thing because when you do get bite, it's going to be a big one. You got mono on, ooh, you get the bite, dig, pow. There goes the tank of your life right there because your tackle wasn't right, okay?
Oh.
I use a Magnum grass rod for my frogs and my buzzbaits.
One more thing about, and I'll tap into what Chris is just talking about. A lot of the fish that we're targeting, I mean, how many fish over 5 pounds have we caught on buzzbaits over the last 5, 6, 7 years, whatever? A lot. And, you know, quite a few over 10, 9s, 8, a lot of really nice, huge bass.
We weighed, real quick, Bobby, we weighed a bag last September, actually right at the end of August. It was an Angler's Choice tournament. It was the last qualifying tournament of the year. We were kind of on the bubble as far as winning the Angler of the Year title for that, and we said, well, what are we going to do? You want to go out and get a limit, you want to fish for big ones and just try to kill these guys. And as usual, we went for the let's run the 6-bite program, and we caught 5 fish that day that almost weighed 38 pounds. It set the all-time Angler's Choice record across the nation for a 5-fish limit. 2 out of those 5 fish were weighed on that buzzbait right there. We had almost a 7-pound average.
But let's talk about the one that came off in the morning.
Let's not talk about that one.
Okay, the biggest problem that you have with buzzbaits, and the reason that Chris is emphasizing the braided line on a buzzbait, a lot of these fish that we're targeting, again, we're throwing at spots that may be this big or they may be that big. Just big enough to harbor a 22 to 24 inch fish. That's kind of the way we look at our targets. As this thing's coming across, that water could be a foot, 16 inches, 18 inches, 2.5 feet, whatever. But you will notice on your bigger bites on a buzzbait, how many of you guys have ever caught a bass over 6 pounds on a buzzbait? Okay, a few. You will notice that as this bait comes by this target, okay, as it comes by right here, this is the spot where you're anticipating getting the bite. As you come by that, you will a lot of times see the water swirl and her come up the backside on the buzzbait. And when they do that, we call it seeing on a bait. They create almost a C. It's coming this way, they come around the backside and they attack this way. And when they do that, they open up them big chompers and they completely engulf the whole buzzbait. It's gone. If you have monofilament and she closes those, that mouth opens up, and that buzzbait goes in there, and you go to pull with monofilament against that steel trap, this buzzbait is just like this in her mouth. It's just like that. You're not going to be able to drive because she's clamped down like that on that line, and you're going to pull like that, and she's going to pull like that, big swirl, she's running like this, and a lot of times you'll see that fish leave the water, and you'll see your buzzbait go one way and her go the other way. With the braided line, at least you got a shot of being able to pull, and you've got to get all of this through her mouth, and hopefully this grabs. Or that line slips through her teeth, and you impale her at the top of the head on the inside of the mouth. Okay? In 1993, I won the Big Bass Derby that was out here in the river on a buzzbait very similar. It was a Bobby D buzzbait, a Gans buzzbait actually. We throw Bobby D buzzbaits when we throw this style. Or this is a Darrell Boyce, I believe. Mm-hmm. Right? That buzzbait fish, the buzzbait was completely gone. This is the fish's mouth right here. When I took that buzzbait out, that was all that was in. That was all that was showing from the mouth of that fish. The fish was almost 8 pounds. And this hook right here was inside her throat and in the top of her head. A lot of the big buzzbait fish, it makes me think of one that I caught in a tournament a couple of years ago, and we call that the dead man. Because as it's going through the air when we throw it, a lot of times when we make the long throw, it looks like somebody falling out.
Yeah, it's an oblong bait to throw.
Anyway, that's what we call it. That's the dead man. I got a bite on the dead man that was probably, I don't know, 12, 14 pound fish. I lost the fish. We're disappointed. We go down the bank a little bit further. What'd that one weigh? 10, 24, whatever it was?
Almost. I keep track of that stuff.
I throw it out there, pop, pop, pop. She seed on the bait, she squashed it, dig, 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 net, scoop, and Chris is pulling the buzzbait out of the fish. The buzzbait was, I'm looking over his shoulder at the fish. The buzzbait is completely gone. He's digging in her throat for this buzzbait. He goes, get another buzzbait. I go, I'll just use that one. He goes, believe me, dude, get another buzzbait. This fish took this buzzbait 045 wire and went like this with it.
she bent it in about 14 different directions. But he failed to mention when I said get another buzzbait is because 10 seconds before that, I got this fish. I'm down like this. I'm trying to dig it out. I'm looking at this buzzbait that's bent this way. She crushed it. He's saying, hurry up and give me it back. I'm going to get another one. And I'm trying to tell him, you better get another buzz. You're not going to throw this one. Matter of fact, I wish I'd have brought it. We've got it in the garage.
Yeah, I got that one in my.
When they eat this bait, it's incredible. I mean, it's like somebody dropped an anvil in the water.
But the thing is, you know, we're talking about a couple of really exciting moments in buzzbait fishing, and the only way you're going to get to experience that is if you tie that joker on and you throw it with a ton of confidence and you stay with it. Him and I are the most no fish catching a son of guns you guys have ever talked to when we go out and fun fish. You know, we catch nothing because we're looking for these guys. So we get a lot of 3 and 4 and sometimes 5 hours with no bites because, you know, we're not pitching weightless worms in the tulies just trying to pacify ourselves with a couple of bites or throwing a crankbait on a rock wall. There's nothing wrong with that kind of stuff. If that's how you want to attack this place, and that's where you want to go with your fishing game. But when you start to target a better than average quality fish, the best way to do that is with the topwater bait. So,
and you've got to have a lot. That's where the discipline comes in.
Like Bobby
said,
just lots of confidence. And one of the best ways to accumulate and acquire that confidence is to go fish in the evenings a little bit. I got the Kosiches here, and we got to do that one evening on a guide trip. We stayed out a little bit later than we normally do, but we got on just a phenomenal buzzbait bite. But that's just a little example. There's so many times I look out on the river as I'm coming home or whatever it may be. You don't hear any outboards after 3:30, 4 o'clock. Very seldom do you hear any outboards on the river. Very seldom. Those guys in Texas, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Montana, those guys would be so jealous if they came out here and launched their boat at 3 o'clock and fished till dark. They would go, this is one of the top 3 greatest bass fisheries in the United States, and these guys don't use this place when these fish are the most active. Oh my goodness. You go back to Texas, I spend a lot of time back there in the summer sometimes. You cannot find a parking spot after 3 o'clock. Those guys get off work, they got their, I don't care if it's a 12-foot runabout, a 14-foot John boat, as long as it's got something in the back to push me and something that I can put my foot on and steer once I get there, it's being utilized on any body of water back there in the evenings. Because those guys know, I mean, you know, in order to acquire confidence in whatever it is that they're doing, I need to get some bites on this. So if you want to work on your topwater game, especially in the summertime, the evenings are the time to be doing it.
Key times. And when I first started fishing out with Bobby out here, and I knew we were going to be doing a lot of topwater, I did a lot of evening fishing out here.
Right. But the thing you got to be careful of, and we've fallen into that trap way too many times, is trying to catch evening fish on Saturday from 6 to 3.
Yeah.
We've got it handed to us quite a few times because you go out some evenings, you know, hey, the biggest one you catch is maybe 3 1/4 pounds. That's great. A lot of action, cool. I'm getting confidence in what I'm doing here. But then you have some of those evenings where you go out and you're bouncing around and maybe you only got 3 or 4 bites, but one was an 8 1/4. Oh, okay. Now I'm starting to live with this thing a little bit. I'm starting to get a lot more confidence in this thing right here.
Use it as a tool. Yeah. You know, if you're not real experienced with topwater, get out there in the optimum times, low light conditions. Get out there. You don't have to be as fine at 7 o'clock in the evening as you do at 12:15 in the afternoon. Okay, they loosen up a little bit, and you can work on your skills that way. You know, if you haven't thrown a buzzbait a lot, get out there in the evening. You're probably going to get a lot of bites. How many of us have set the hook and duck, boom, there it goes flying by your head? You can work on all that stuff, okay? And then once you get comfortable with it, and you get that into your game plan, whether you're going to fish a tournament or what you're going to do, because of all those evening trips and letting the fish eat the bait, which is real important with any topwater, let them eat it. This guy's wanted to break boat paddles over my head when I first started fishing with him, because I would see the bite, set the hook, and we're both ducking, get out of the way, because here it comes at 90 miles an hour.
That's something else too. And, you know, when you're talking about topwater baits, Some topwater baits are a little more different than other topwater baits as far as waiting to feel the fish, load the rod before you swing. The buzzbait, what we always do is we evaluate the strike.
Yeah.
If it's a super intense strike with a lot of white water, for the most part, you're swinging on impact. When you see a super aggressive bite, she's probably got it. You're not quick enough to pull it away from that fish. Okay. With the pop-Rs and the devil's horse and wood choppers, when we're doing that, we always, as soon as if I can't see that bait right there, I'm winding, and then as I'm winding, I can usually feel the load of that fish, and then you sweep the set. With a devil's horse and a wood chopper, those are the only topwater baits that we'll throw monofilament with, and that's why it's always our last resort. And we don't want to do that unless we absolutely have to. If you try and throw a devil's horse or a wood chopper with braided line, you might get one clean throw, especially if you got a little bit of breeze. You're going to throw over there again. If you got some 50-pound spider wire, whatever it may be, tied onto that devil's horse or wood chopper, you're going to throw over there, and you go, poof, and that bait's going to come back sideways, crooked, because that braided line is going to wrap around that front prop almost every single time. But if you've got monofilament line, it's a little stiffer, and it'll stay out away from the nose of the bait and stay away from the props, so you can throw that thing out there. When you get bit on monofilament, it's very, very important that you try, like I said, you throw out there, you start to wind. A lot of times, as you're winding, that fish has got it, and she's moving away like that. As you're winding, you're tightening up, and you're getting all that line stretch out of there, and when you sweep, you get almost 100% hook penetration. Okay, very important. Very similar to the flukes and all that kind of stuff and sluggos that we used to throw. If you throw a fluke or a sluggo out there, he's the one that showed me how to throw a fluke, right? Make a jump, and she eats it, and you set like this, you're going to feel this, and she's going to come off. Doggone it. But because you're using 15, 17-pound mono, you throw it over there, pop, 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 you watch it disappear, you start to wind, that line starts to load, pull, stretch, starts to get like that, and you sweep, and it's money. You're going to catch almost every single one of those.
Bobby, you got a telephone call.
Okay.
All right. Let's get back to this right here real quick so I can finish this off. Speed and tempo are real critical with this buzzbait, okay? You don't want to reel this thing 90 miles an hour. Get it on top, just keep those blades working, pancake days, okay? Short throws or pitches to isolated pieces of structure, okay? If you're fishing weed flats, the key parts of a weed flat are going to be the inside bends of the pockets and the points, okay? If it's a straight weed line, yeah, you can get down and parallel it, but if that sucker makes a little dish in and there's a couple points, those are the spots to be hitting. Don't have your trolling motor on 50 because you're in 3 feet of water and there's weeds. Hit the trolling motor, let it sit, make the throw, make it money every time. If you got to get out and practice, do it, okay? The bites you'll get on this are critical. Bobby touched on something about sweeping the rod, okay? We don't need to go out there and be Hank Parker or Bill Dance and go, she's got it, wham! I see a lot of guys make mistakes, not only with buzz baits, but with a lot of baits. They'll get that rod up here. They make a 155-foot cast, so they're up here trying to get it up on top. It goes about 3 feet, and all of a sudden, you get the bite. Well, guess what? Where are you going to go on the hook set from here? Not too far. You know, and if that fish is 8 or 9 pounds, you can kiss it off unless she swallowed it. Okay? I like to hold my bait, my rod, with a buzz bait about right here. Okay? I'm not making real far throws. I'm throwing from here to the door, maybe the truck to the outside there. It hits, I engage the reel, get it up, twitch, 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 bring it back. When she eats it, I got 2 options depending on where I'm at in the boat. If I'm running the trolling motor, I've got 3 options. I can come straight off the head of the trolling motor, come straight up, or this side like this, okay? Or this side. If Bobby's running the front, I'm on the side of him. Most of my sets on a buzzbait are going to be what Bobby talked about, and that's the sweep. I'm going to throw, bring it, bring it, bring it. She's got it, and I'm going to hit her right here, okay? And I'm never, ever, and I've done this before, and this is where the patience and the discipline and going out and practicing it comes in big time. Don't hammer that fish and then drop your rod, bring your rod out here, reel in slack, and hit her again, okay? Once you hit that sucker, Keep her coming. Keep that rod right here and keep her coming. Keep a tight line. Do not give them slack. Two things are going to happen, okay? If it's an open water bite, you're going to give that fish a chance to throw the bait with a good jump. And if it's in weeds, you're going to give her just that split second to turn that head and get in the weeds. And if you got 4 or 5 of those jokers in there, you don't want to say, well, let's go get her, because now you just ruined 3 or 4 more bites. She eats it, hit her, and keep it coming. Don't stop. I mean, do not stop. You can't do that if you're up here. If you're up here, I'm telling you right now, yeah, you might catch 1 or 2, but most of the time, you're going to lose them, or they're going to dig in the weeds or the toolies or wood or whatever you happen to be fishing, and you're going to ruin your day. Okay? So this buzzbait, calm, flat days, take your time, get it on top, precise bait placement, no bites on it, but the bites you get are toilet bowl flushes. They're going to be good ones. Okay, the second one we like to throw is this bad boy right here. Chop on the water, okay? Springtime, great bait. Awesome bait. Makes a little noise. Don't throw this bait out and reel it 90 miles an hour, okay? Just get an even tempo going with it. Buzzbait fishing is it's speed, it's tempo, okay? When you get bit on that buzzbait and it's a 9-pounder, whether it's this one or a metal blade, you get the 8-pounder, you and your buddy are going, wow, that's cool, that's cool. Okay, that's cool. Take pictures of it, let her go. Figure out how fast that bait was moving. A lot of guys don't understand what I mean when I say that, though. A lot of guys say, oh, she ate that good, I was bringing it. Okay, you were bringing it, but how were you bringing it? You know what I mean? Was it just a straight luck? Or were you bringing it stop and go? Or because the wind blew your line, and all of us have been there where you throw and that wind takes your line, and you go, that kind of worked out cool because now my bait landed on the other side of that weed pocket. I can make it curve right around that point, you know? Change in direction, speed, and tempo. Pay attention to that stuff when you get bit on top with any top water bait, okay? And depth. Pay attention to the depth. It's huge. Guys get caught up in, well, I want this part of the tide, I want that part of the tide. Well, sometimes that part of the tide is not going to be available to you. We all know that, okay? You can catch them on top if the water is 6 foot high or if it's 3 foot high, okay? Speed, tempo, whatever cadence, you know, if you're popping it or if you're ripping it, spitting it like Bobby was talking about with the wood choppers, things like that, pay attention to those little details, because those little details right there can turn a 5-pounder at 7 o'clock in the evening into, you know, 4 fish for 19.5, 21 pounds before 11 o'clock in the morning on game day on Saturday, because you paid attention to what that one fish did in the evening, how she ate the bait. You know, if you're bringing it by a weed point, if you see her come out from underneath there and eat it, or was she out here and eat it? Pay attention to that little stuff. People get too caught up in, man, that was a cool bite, that was awesome, but they forget to learn.
You've
got to learn.
One of the things, especially dealing with this delta out here, exactly what Chris is talking about. You've got a tool. You know, you've come all the way up the Thule berm, or usually a berm. You're coming up the berm, and then you get to the point. The flow's coming towards you. It's moving at a pretty rapid pace, and you get to the point, and you throw past the point. You're 5, 7 feet past the point, and as you're pulling that buzzbait, it's going like this. That buzzbait is going like this. So now you're actually fishing about this much of the backside of that point.
Right.
That buzzbait's going. Now what's the buzzbait going to do? It's going to change direction and come around it. And when you get bit by a good fish that way, don't go around the point and keep going down that bank. Number one, you're going down the wrong direction. Always try to throw and bring your bait with the flow, especially a topwater bait, flipping, spinner baits, whatever it may be. But when you get into a situation like that, you have tapped into something that is really, really cool. You just got to be able to recognize it. That fish might have been on that side of the point. That fish might have been sitting dead red middle. She might have been off to this side. Sometimes that fish will let you know which side she's coming from because of the V that she creates. You were on this side, you caught the fish on the back side that was about 3 feet down from that point. She's in heavy flow, she's behind a bunch of toolies, and she's patrolling, she's looking, she's watching. And here comes this thing. Oh, it's going around the backside. I got to have that. Boom.
That change of direction is huge.
Big time.
If that bait is going in a straight line, yeah, you can get clubbed. But you'll see Bobby and I, if you've ever seen us out in the water, when we're really on our game, when we know, hey, we're going to get bit, we're going to get our 6 bites, a lot of times we won't just make that throw and do this, okay? Bobby, most of the time, 99.9% of the time, Bobby's running the trolling motor, okay? So a lot of that is keyed in on him on changing bait directions. He'll make that throw, he'll go and do this. And all that does is make that bait just do this, and a lot of times that is what keys that bite. Just a little different subtlety in what that bait's doing, because that fish thinks, Mother Nature kicks in, they think, oh, that knows I'm here, so it's trying to get away. You know what I mean? And that's when they punch it. Real quick on the metal biz bait. Little chop in the water, this thing's money. Absolute money. Once again, don't use a trailer hook. We don't get caught up in all the crazy colors. I do have a couple white and chartreuses in there, but most of the time it's black, which we believe gets the bigger bites. It's minimal bites, but they're bigger bites. And the white one. This is an awesome bait. It really, really is. Great evening time bait. Great locator, because you can cover a lot more water with this style buzz bait than you can the plastic one. A lot of guys come up to me and say, well, man, when that wind's blowing 10 miles an hour and I throw the buzz bait, it tumbles, it does that, it does this. One of the things that I learned a few years ago is what you can do is, when we all fish them, is take your worn out Senkos, and I take like the last 1.5 inches of that tail of the ones that are messed up, and I'll thread it right on that hook, okay? In this case, I got one that's June bug with a little chartreuse. I like to put a little chartreuse on this little trailer here. It's not a trailer hanging off. As you can see, it's right at the end of the tip, okay? It adds a little flash to that bait as it's moving. But the other thing it does, which I like the most, is it counterbalances this bait. When you throw this bait now with this on here, because of the salt content in that Senko, this bait will tend to go like this and stay straight when you throw it. It won't roll over, it won't flip, it won't do any of that because of that added weight back here, okay? Hence, let's make that first throw the money throw, okay? You want to, that first throw is the critical throw.
And we want that buzz bait working for us as soon as it touches.
Yeah.
As soon as it touches. We need that thing fishing for us as soon as it hits. Phew, plop. Because a lot of those strikes that we get on the buzz bait are within that far of where it hit.
This much.
And if you don't make the money pitch or get it in there as quiet as possible, and then get your bait up, get it running, get in position, because it can happen at, especially right here, from contact point to contact point.
That first 2 feet is
right here.
Critical.
This is the deal. So you got to be on the clock right there. And if you can get away from this, unless you absolutely have to, the overhand Hail Mary throw. Get into this, you know, get it in the water as quiet as possible, and as soon as that baby touches, as soon as it touches, you lift up on the rod tip and then you get your rod in position for the bite.
Engage the reel. Get that bait working. Especially out here. You guys know, if you're throwing a spinner bait, a buzz bait, how many, and we do it sometimes when we get lazy, and then you think, God, why did I do that? That was a great spot. There was probably a, who knows what, a 3.5 to who knows what. That throw's got to be money. Yeah. Work on it at home, work on it. I mean, get it right, because that first throw with that buzz bait, here it comes, it hits, get the net, okay? The last thing that this trailer does is when that fish eats this, it has a little body to this bait, okay? So when they punch this sucker, it's just not all metal. There's actually a little meat to that, okay? That fish feels that and she goes, I got something good, okay? So it works a couple ways. A little chartreuse on there, I'll do it with my spinner baits too. You know, he thought I was nuts when I first started doing it, but it worked out pretty good. The first day I threw it in a tournament, I caught a 7.5 and I said, now what? So, but it does work good. Put a little chartreuse, a little red, whatever you like. It'll help you balance your bait, okay? And it will also give those fish something to grab onto, okay? So real quick, a little overview with the buzz baits, stout equipment, okay? If an 8-footer is too much for you, we like the 8-foot Lamiglass rods. They're awesome, awesome rods, okay? There's a lot of other good rods out there. 8-footers might be too much for you. Don't throw anything less than a 7-foot rod. I'm telling you right now. You can go out there with a 6-footer or a 6.6, but sooner or later you're going to get your day ruined. You know, it's pretty tough for a fish to ruin your day. I mean, how bad it can be, you're out fishing, but when you've gone 3 or 4 hours without a bite and you get that bite and you go, oh my Lord, look at that thing. Because you can't get the hooks in her number one without a stout rod, and you don't get the leverage to move that fish. You've got to move that fish 4 or 5 inches to get her coming, okay? That first impact is critical, because she goes, oh, you know, imagine if you're sitting in your office, somebody walks up behind you, folds up a magazine, you don't know it's coming, and they go, pow, right on the side of the head. For a split second, you don't even know what hit you, right? Well, that's what we want to do when these fish eat that bait. Hammer them, move them, get them turned, get them coming to you. Stout equipment, high-speed reel. We like the Shimanos. Once again, there's other good reels out there. I don't think that there's a good as reel as a Shimano or the Lama Glass rods, but there's some comparable ones out there. And braided line, okay? We like the spider wire. Once again, there's other good lines out here. I'm not going to tell you exactly which line, because you might have your own preference of rod, reels, and line, but braided line, stout rod, high-speed reel, and perfect bait placement. Make it perfect, because if she's an 8-pounder and you screw up that first throw, chances are that fish is not going to eat on your second throw, especially if you got a 10 mile, 15 mile an hour wind, because now you've moved, you're going to hit the trolling motor, she's going to go, oh, I know what that is, okay? This is the sneaky guy bait, okay? Little wind, little more room for error with this bait, okay? Good attracting bait. You're not going to get the big bites you will on this, but your bites will go up with this, big time.
One more thing about the trailer hook, and we don't want to sound so anti-trailer hook, which we really are. But the only time we use a trailer hook is on the dead man, first thing in the morning, if we've got a high tide. That's it. If the water's low, mid-range coming in, mid-range going out, we don't have a trailer hook on it. And the first thing that we do with that trailer hook is we paint it black.
Yeah, and speaking of black, do that with your line too. Mm-hmm. You can show them what we do with our tips there.
Right there.
Hold on. With this marker, let me cut him off real quick. Get the big marker, take a razor blade, cut a slice in it right here, okay? Slices right down the middle. Take 6 or 8 feet of that line, get it right in that slice, and all you gotta do is make sure, now I got a spook hooked on me, hold that rod, put it against the chair, and take that thing and do that. Make that line black. A lot of guys say, well, in clear water they see that black line. Well, maybe, but I'll tell you what, it works for us. A lot of times what happens with braided line, for you guys that have thrown braided line, it dies after a while, you know? And there's a crowd of people that say, well, this blends better, we like this, okay? Tie your knot first before you mark your line though. Don't mark your line and then tie your knot, okay? Just that little bit of ink on there might loosen up that knot. So tie your knot, hit it with a marker. A little slice in there, you can do it in 30 seconds. And you only need to do 5 or 6 feet of it. That's it. It's real simple. Follow-up bait for the buzzbait. We all read in magazines and watch videos and watch Bill Dance and all those guys throw plastic back in there. Well, guess what our follow-up bait is? Spook. Not to say that we don't throw a sweet beaver or some plastic at them, but a lot of times we follow up that big bite on the buzzbait that she missed it or I jerked it away by the head. We'll reel our bait back in and pitch this spook right back to that hole where she did it. Once again, the first pitch has got to be money, but it's got to be quick, okay? You can't go, oh, she missed it, get a bait in there and just go, okay, whatever, okay? If I miss that buzzbait fish and Bobby's throwing, whether he's got a 6-pounder on or not, or underneath his bait, he's going to reel that in, he's going to drop that, he's going to pick that spook up, he's going to go, where's she at? Oh, and he's going to make that pitch. And it's going to go down in about 7 seconds.
You got less than you really do. It's about, the key number is 7. You got about 7 seconds to catch that fish when she's that hot. As the seconds go by, after she ran out, charged out, missed the bait, she's still wondering where it went. She sees it tracking, or she can sense that it's tracking that way. I'm just not that juiced to go get that, but I'm still agitated right now. And as the seconds go by, that dorsal fin that's up there like that is going to slowly go down like this, and she's going to get back in here and just go.
Yeah, she's had a chance to chill out now.
Man.
You know,
That was a shark.
The only time we don't throw this spook as a backup bait is if it's in heavy moss. And then we'll go with the sweet beaver back in there, okay? But weed pockets, tules, rocks, wood, throw this back there, get it back in there. As soon as it hits, let it sit. Don't even move it. But be on the clock, be ready. You know, let it sit there. She's gonna look at that thing. Oh. A lot of times we'll pitch it in there. Oh, okay, cool, she hit it right there. A lot of times they won't do that. They're still sitting there. We'll let that spook sit there. And when we move it, it's about, what, I'm talking to where it just goes. And most of the times, not all the time, but most of the times you get this. Ooh, out of the water. I mean, just crush it. Just absolutely crush it. This is the best follow-up bait that I think we have found in the past few years as far as the missed buzzbait bites. You know, once again, in the moss, yeah, it's pretty, I mean, him and I, we can pretty much hit a teacup with our pitches and our throws. But in that moss, you know, it's tough. Things are a little more accelerated in the tournament, or if you're not fishing, you just got the bite of your life. Oh, she missed it, okay? Throw some plastic back there. But if you got a chance to get this spook in there clean and quiet, you cannot beat this bait. You can't. They will absolutely kill it.
When we're throwing spooks, just primarily throwing spook. Whenever I'm throwing a spook, I'm throwing this one. Baby bass super spook. Whenever I'm throwing this one, it's because my team partner was on the water and he said they're eating the white one better than the baby bass. I don't experiment. I don't play. I tie this one on. That's it. If they're eating the black one, we've got that one always sitting on the deck usually if we're doing the buzzbait thing in the morning. But if they're eating either one of those two, it's because he told me. That's it. But this is what I throw. I like this guy right here. And we both do, we always take the middle hook off on the super spooks. Yeah. The stock hooks that come with the super spook, take them off, take the hooks off, take the O-rings off, and put them right in the garbage can right over there. Get you some high quality hooks, whether they be owners, gummies, whatever it may be. Put some number 2s, whether you want to go super line or EWG style or whatever it may be, and upgrade your O-rings also. I'm sure that Gary's got some Worth O-rings. We use the Worth O-rings, clear package, green, clear and green. And I don't even know what size it is that we use, but like this, this must have happened in the tournament. This must have happened right before one of our quiet times.
Are you looking at one of the back ones?
Yeah. Yes. This is what, you guys pass this around. That's what happens. Look at the O-ring on the back of that Zara spook right there. That's what happens when you don't change things out before a tournament, okay? A lot of times you have a big guy go, oh, he pulls, you're throwing it with 50-pound braided line, not 65, not 80. You're throwing it with 50, not 30, 50. And you put too much juice to her and she digs, goes in the weeds and comes off because you're playing tug-of-war like this, and you get the old oblong like this O-ring. But if you're using an upgraded O-ring, you don't get that problem. You get this still. If she comes off because she dives in the weeds and you're playing tug-of-war, I can deal with that. But I can't deal with this. That's just...
Yeah. Take care of as much of the mechanical stuff as you can is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Change those split rings out. And that goes for your crankbaits too. You know, for so many years, Bobby told me, man, you lost that fish because your split ring. Ah, you're crazy. Get it in and go. Oh. Change those split rings out. Stick a stout hook on there. I think those are the 2-aught Gamakatsu EWGs on there. That's a money hook. Are they 2s? That is an absolute money hook. It
and
is
if you
really
striper
fun.
fish, and maybe Gary, is Gary still here? Or Tim, maybe? When I striper fish, I use the spook a lot. We catch a lot of our bigger stripers on Zara spooks or pencil poppers, whatever it may be. And we use a 1-aught, 2X or 4X strong hook in front and number 1 in the back. 2X or 4X strong. Last year I had to go to 4X. The 2X, we had a couple of them opened up, okay? And it's really, I like taking pictures of my clients with like stripers where they're holding it like this.
And the tail's still.
And the tail's touching the bottom. the floor of the boat. Okay, we don't get to take as many of those pictures if you throw a stock bait out there. I've had a few of my guys that, no, I got it. I got a Zare spook just like yours. Yeah, but mine's on steroids. Yours isn't. Well, I'll use mine. Man, I hate to even let them make one throw with that bait, but I'm not going to argue with them. Okay, and the first one that goes, starts digging, we get on the trolling motor, we're chasing this thing down. She makes a hard surge going out the back door. Think, you know, the hooks are like this, you know, like this sometimes. O-rings, this program. So we try to control as many variables with the tackle as we possibly can. Okay, and those hooks, a lot of my clients, Tim, they're looking for them, and they just can't find them. And I don't know if you guys got them recently or whatever, but the guys are having a real tough time finding them. So
on this black spook, Bobby likes the baby bass one. You can see that one, and I love it too. I mean, that's a year-round topwater spook. It's awesome. From about the second week of April on through now, when we get in the low light conditions, whether I'm fishing in the evening, which I do a lot of that, that's where I do a lot of my homework is in the evenings, or if we get the cloud overcast,
very cool.
The lower light conditions, this black one is awesome. The bait presence, the silhouette that this black one has is awesome in low light. On the days where we have bluebird skies, where there's not a cloud, I really like this bone one. It is an awesome bait. The baby bass, you can do that bait 12 months a year if you choose to. It's an awesome bait. It really is. Great post-spawn bait too. When those males are guarding that fry, and you're not targeting the spawning fish, but they're still guarding their fry, that baby bass spook, you can't beat it, okay? One other thing with the spook is guys get caught up in, once again, you can get some great bites doing that, but slow it down, okay? Make it do this, okay? And a lot of people have problem walking the dog with that. I don't put a split ring. I've seen guys put split rings. They say I can walk the dog easier. I've never done it, but I know that I like to have my knot right where the money is. I don't want to rely on a split ring where my knot is at with this bait. Get that rod at about a 45 at about 4 o'clock and just go pop, pop, pop. Not this, right here with the wrist. Okay, and then that bait will just go. Same thing with the buzz bait. Pay attention when you get that bite, whether it's somebody dropped a bowling ball in the water or if we get this, a lot of guys, small fish, we get that bite, it's get the net, okay, because that's usually the kind that goes pure suck. Pay attention how they eat the spook, okay? Was that bait, or did you have a tempo and a cadence with it again? Twitch, 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 stop, nose bob, twitch, twitch, nose bob. Just like a rip bait on the legs, you know, you can't just go down a bank and think you're going to beat Gary Dobbins in February going, it doesn't happen, okay? No different than what Bobby and I do out here with our topwater baits. Change of direction, change in the cadence, okay? Give them something different to see on every throw or every pitch. Change it. A lot of times we'll be throwing and you'll see us do this. We're reeling and we'll go, whoop, whoop, whoop. Just that little can trigger some of the greatest topwater bites you've ever had in your lives. I'm telling you, different stuff. Work on stuff and pay attention.
We throw the spook with 50 braid, paint the line about 10, 12 yards, and the hook set on the spook, pop, 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 pop. Ooh, it's like this, wind down, and then cinch it up. We don't hammer them on the hook set. Ooh, we don't do that with the spook with 50 braid. You got 2 treble hooks. Yeah. It's going to cause problems. You're either going to jerk the bait, you're going to tear the bait out of the fish's mouth, throw it over there, pop, pop, pop. Ooh. With braid, all you got to do is do this right here, get them going in, and then as you wind down, as your rod's still loaded, as you're winding down, your rod never relaxes when you wind down. You got to keep the load on that rod tip, wind down, and then just cinch it up right there, boom. And you're probably going to put about 75% of those fish in the boat.
Especially with those treble hooks. Different deal with that buzzbait. You pretty much got to hammer them because you got a lot of stuff in front of that hook. Yeah. Okay, but with those treble hooks, like Bobby says, you know, I learned from the best by being in the boat with him, and I thought I had my own ways of doing things, and I learned real quick after losing some real crucial fish when it counted that I better start paying attention to my mechanics. And when he said, try this, it works, okay? All you got is this and 2 sets of treble hooks. Like he says, get the bite, bang, tight line, okay? When you go forward to hit him again, don't let that line go. Okay, you want to still keep continuous pressure on that fish. You don't need to kill him. Ooh, she eats it, bang.
Those of you guys that do fish for stripers with your topwater baits, they do have these hooks right here. If you're bumping into stripers, and if you guys like taking pictures of 15-pound plus stripers, the way you increase your odds is to put some stouter hooks on there. And these are the 4X owners, and these will get the job done. If you have a couple, you know, you're out in the evening, you're out in the morning, whatever. That old Robert Rain. What happens, Robert, if we're throwing stock hooks when we went striper fishing? We got problems, huh? Yeah. So, you know, them big silverfish, they're strong, and they'll open up that. And so is a 4.5 is a strong largemouth. But when you're throwing a Zara spook out here on this pond, I mean, you
never know what you're going to get bit by.
There was a 13 pounder caught on a spook in White Slough. The guy got a backlash. Throws it out there. It was in a pro-am 2, 3, 4 years ago, something like that. You remember that one, Cliff? No? He throws it out there. He's in White Slough. First thing in the morning, throws it. Oh, backlash. I think he was from Nevada or something. Zara Spooks just sitting there. You know, he said it sat there for about a minute. And as soon as, I guess when he got all under control again, he just moved. That fish was probably just sitting there just. And who knows, maybe she was just, and that thing just quivered. And that's when she poked it. But he said it was just sitting there, got his backlash out and clicked it over, and she ate it.
So once again, it's the change in the cadence or change in direction. How many of you guys that have a cat at home? I have them, and I got children, and they love to take the fishing pole, tie string on it with something, and watch the cat do. I got a cat that jumps about that high and does complete backflip. Piece of work. They'll do that for about 10 minutes and chase it. And then he goes, you know what, I'm tired, man. I'm going to go. He'll walk about 6 feet over there, and he will just sit there. And you can twitch that thing and do nothing. This is where the change in direction, the speed, and the tempo comes in. I can trigger that cat into doing something. And my son's right here. He knows how I do it. I'll throw that bait 2 or 3 feet away from him. If he's laying there and I put it right in his stomach, yeah, he's going to grab it. But if I throw it 3 or 4 feet away from him and he's tired from chasing it around, and I just let it sit there and let it sit and let it sit and let it sit and do not even move it, he can't deal with it. And these fish are out here are the same way, you know, dead sticking a jig or a Cinco. That's a tough way to fish, but we dead stick topwaters a lot too. Like Bobby was saying, that guy's digging out that backlash and that fish is going, man, I don't know.
Just quiver.
And like he says, she may have just, you know what, I'm not going to, and then all of a sudden twitch, oh. Mother Nature kicks in. That fish doesn't even think. Instinct takes over. And the same thing with the cat. I'll let it sit, and pretty soon he'll get up, and that old tail will twitch, and then he can't deal with it. They don't have the patience, okay? But you as a fisherman got to have the patience. You got to be willing to do that. The patience and the discipline. Once again, I said we were going to talk about it. You got to have it. You've got to have it. And the mechanics to get that bait where it needs to be the first time. I mean, once again, when I was cutting my teeth with Bobby, you know, how many times did I have him turn around, stop everything, and say, you gotta make that throw money the first time, Chris. You've got it, because one of these days, that throw is gonna count. It's gonna really, and I mean really count. And it took us a while to gel with that, you know, because I was thinking, yeah, you know, I'll get it on the next throw. Nah. We had a tournament in late October of '99. It was the first team championship we ever fished. And we had been fishing since '97. I didn't fish a tournament with them until late of '98, actually. And because of all that stuff, I used to have my wife, this is a true story, I had a motor toter for getting underneath the car. Okay, you know what I'm talking about? You lay on it in your back, get under there. I'm not a mechanic, but I had one anyways. It looked good in the garage. And it had a rope on there. And when I first got associated with Bobby, and he was drilling into me, not so much you got to have this bait, but mechanics, the master of mechanics, and I learned a lot from it. I told my wife, okay, I've been fishing with Bobby on these fun trips. This guy can go put it in a cup. I can't. I got to work on this. So I would walk around my backyard, because most of the time in a boat we're moving. Okay, and I'm going to tell you guys some stuff here in the next 30 seconds. You're going to laugh or probably think that guy's crazy, but it ended up working. I would walk along my backyard with a flipping stick, and I would hit targets, moving as I'm moving. Okay, not anybody can go poop in the can 6 out of 8 times, but can you do it when you're walking and hit targets? I got pretty good at that, and I thought, man, there's got to be a little bit different way to do this to where I'm stationary, but I'm still moving. Bored in the garage, had already mowed the lawn, scooped the dog poop, done all my chores. I'm looking at this thing, and I thought, this is how I'm going to do this. So I grabbed that, it's got the string on it, and I tell my wife, Tony, come here. What do you want? I'm always in the backyard with a fishing pole doing something, either teasing the cats or driving whatever crazy. I want you to drag me around on this thing while I try to balance myself and stay on it, and I'm going to work on hitting my targets. And she thought I was nuts. But I said, look, one of these days, and we were renting a house at the time and struggling like any young couple does. I said, one of these days, I'm going to make a throw like this, and it might mean the difference between a down payment on a house. And she looked at me like I was nuts. Well, she started doing it, you know. This thing's going over bumps, and I'm doing this, and I'm hitting my spots. So, and I got to where, go ahead and speed it up, and I would hit my spots. Not all the time. It's not going to happen 10 out of 10 times, but I'll take 9 out of 11 any day. Okay? Goofy stuff like that. You can, you know, your neighbors, your brothers, sisters, mother, father, they're going to think you're nuts. But that little kind of stuff right there can make a huge difference. Okay? So back to 99, we're fishing our first team championship. We're going down the bank, we're doing this, and I'm praying, please, Lord, I'm nervous. The first big tournament was for a boat and some cash. Let him catch all the fish. Okay? I'm nervous. We had, I don't know, a half hour left in the tournament. We needed one more fish. One more fish. And it was a real tight deal. It was a 2-day deal. We were 3 pounds out the first day. Long story short, half hour left. That's when it's really got to be money. A lot of guys lose their cookies in, but him and I, over the years, that's when we fish our best. That last hour, well-oiled machine because of experience. We're going down the bank, throwing, and I see the little toolie point, and there's just a few dead tulies sticking out there with the infamous toolie that hangs over that has the little fuzzy guy up on top that we've all got our line snagged on. Okay, the flow's coming this way, the tulies are laying here, that bent tulie's broke here about 10 inches above the water. How many times we made that throw and it goes over that tulie, you get to where you think she's going to be, and your bait's hanging in the air. And I'm thinking, God, is he going to get that? Well, he gets something else, and I'm thinking, oh. Through all that practice and patience, I put it right in there. It went underneath that toolie, hit right here, got to him going, oh, get the net, 4.5 pounder. Okay, that was a $40,000 fish. That bought me and my wife and my family. That gave us our down payment for our first house. And yeah, maybe if I didn't do all that crazy stuff, moving around and doing this, but in my mind, I know it made me better because I practice this stuff. It's like any sport, man. If you don't practice it, you know, why play it?
Good example. My client today. I pulled the frog away from 2 fish that were probably 6 pounds plus. Just jerked it away. I'm going to knock that hat off again, huh? Pulled the frog away from both of them. And I told Bob, I said, it's got to be right there. You know, I know he's got 7. You see where my frog's at? You see where? Yeah, got it. And I pop it out of there. Get it. Nice, cool, be cool. And he would, the first one, it was the cannonball. And you could see this. As she left, this fish was hot, you know, this fish was hot, and this fish, if I leave my frog there and twitch it one more time, she eats it. Jerk it out of there, and because we didn't have proper mechanics, we don't get even a chance at this fish biting the bait. We don't even get a chance at jerking it away from it. We don't even get a chance at breaking this fish off. So we go down. About an hour and a half later, I've got another monkey underneath this thing. And I go, you got it? You see where I'm at? You see where I'm at? Yeah. And I jerk it out of there, and he throws again, cannonball. Cool. You know, that's probably 2 fish for who knows what. Okay, a lot. Possibly someone's personal best. But because you're not mechanically tuned up for when that situation happens, you might have just lost a shot at a really cool fish.
Yeah, the picture fish of a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, how many times have you caught a fish? You bring camera, no, oh. You know, well, the camera doesn't matter if you don't put the hooks in that fish because your presentation.
But if you're pitch savvy, if you can put that bait and get some momentum with that bait as you throw it, and then good with this guy right here, you're breaking your speed control. Oh, talk about a violent bite. When she's getting ready to poke that thing and it disappears, and then here comes the nice, beautiful feathered pitch. Whew, plop. Oh, I gotta have that.
Kill it.
But if it comes in hot, she goes, oh crap, I'm out of here. That's not right. Foreign object. Been around the block too many times. I know what that means.
Yeah. If she's an 8-pounder,
that, looking good.
Yeah. If she's an 8-pounder through trial and error and experience, she knows that a bluegill, a crawdad, or whatever she's eating, if they know she's in the neighborhood, they're not going to be going crazy like that. They're going to be, ooh, I want out of here.
Ooh,
and that's what she's looking for. She's looking for something that's trying to get away. Cause if she sees something, just, you know, she's not going to do it. That throw's got to be money.
On the positive side, had a guide trip the other day. The client that I had, his personal best fish was 4.5 pounds. He's been bass fishing for 3 years. He's, you know, hey, I'd like to catch one over 4.5 pounds. So we start throwing froggies. I got this one that wakes the moss pretty good, and she's on her way. And I said, Bill, you see where I'm at? Yeah. And I start jerking it, and then I pop her out of there, and he goes, very, very mechanical sound fisherman. He goes, phew, and she's coming this way, and she stopped, and the moss was still rolling, but the fish stopped. And he went, phew, and it went plop, twitch, ooh, 7-4. Perfect presentation, 7-4. So now we got his personal best beat. He did that 2 other times with a 5.5 and a 6. Mechanics. Happy story, happy ending. Because the guy he's only been doing this for 3 years. You know, 3 or 4 years. But, you know, bait fisherman used to do the striper thing, but one of his neighbors turned him on some black bass, caught a 3-pounder on a buzzbait. He's all wired up 3 years ago. So he's been working on his game. And he executed perfectly. We had a couple more opportunities at maybe some smaller fish where, you know, the mechanics weren't perfectly there. Didn't get the bite. That's fine. But 3 times he did it perfectly, and he executed each bite. The only thing was he would swing and you'd get that rod back here like this. And how those fish stayed on, I don't know. Normally when you swing on that frog, we like to go 6 to 12, 8 to 12. Okay? But when you start to get your rod back here, the angle of the line, you lose all the effectiveness of your rod tip. All of it. You can't keep the pressure on those hook points to keep those hooks embedded in that fish's nose. And if you got your rod back here, or you got your rod back here, and your line's over here, and you're trying to stay in control of that fish, you got no leverage. So try and keep everything right here in front of you. Boom, boom. Everything's right here. Okay. You put a lot more of those big.
You guys been hearing about mechanics? We've emphasized it. Work on them. Work on them. Okay. I'm going to sit here and watch him do his thing with the frog, because I know that's probably what most of you guys want to hear about is a frog, especially with the Snag Proof tournament coming up and all that good stuff. I'll chime in on some stuff.
We got to do the frog thing.
I'm going to chime in on some stuff that I do, or we do as a team. Okay. Once again, the buzz baits, the spooks, do that stuff. Make sure your tackle's right. Make sure your mechanics are right. Work on it. You come home from a day at work, you're in a bad mood. Don't plop down on the recliner and watch even more bad news on TV with what we got going on. Go out in the backyard, pop a beer or a Dr. Pepper, and you know, do it with a bait with no hooks, because if you got the neighbor's cat out there, the worst thing you can do is say, hey, I got to take your cat to the vet. I did that when I was a kid, and that was a huge mistake. Work on your mechanics, okay? Take care of every intangible that you can off the water, so that when you do get the bite, everything that is with your body is right. Your line's right, your rod's right, the presentation was right, okay? Now it's, you know, execute it. You're looking for the fastball. Here it is, pal. You've been dreaming about it. You've been working on it. It counts right now. Here it comes. Everything's right. Your shoes are tied. Your cup's on right. Everything's perfect, man. All you got to deal with is this and that. Go get it. It's no different than fishing. It really isn't. If you take care of all that little stuff, get that out of the way. You know, fishing a team tournament, worst thing you can have. Wow, what happened? Oh, my line. You know, man. Didn't you put new line on last night? Well, I put it on last week. So, you know, the first flip, it's been on there for a week. It's been sitting in your house for 3 days. The first flip, how many of us have done this? You go to flip, your bait goes down, and then you got this coil in your line. Because that line's just been baking on that reel. Change your line out if it's mono. Change rope, different deal. Keep it on all year long. Okay? But get those mechanics right. You know? You want to really have some fun? Go out and start doing that in front of your front yard and watch your neighbors go, what the heck are they doing? Especially if you can get something that moves and have your wife or your husband pull you around on it. They'll call them. There'll be guys showing up in a van in white suits with a net to come get you. You know, but that might, all that stuff working on that could produce the fish of a lifetime or the sack of a lifetime in a tournament. It really can.
We'll just mention a few things about the frog. We'll make this quick. I know you guys want to get out of here. Where do you start?
How many of you guys fish in a snag proof? You guys are, what's the deal?
You're fishing a snag proof clip. Okay. I'll make this real quick. We got a new frog out. It's called Perfect Frog. The frog is the way it is because we do a lot of fishing with the frog in open water. Okay? It's more or less designed for open water stuff. We throw it in the heavy jump too, but it doesn't have the thighs to more or less stabilize things, so it will flip and roll and that kind of stuff. But if you get on the outside of cover, especially first thing in the morning. First thing in the morning, I haven't been doing the buzzbait thing as much as I used to, or the Zara spook thing, or whatever it may be. Walking the frog around a lot. Right on the outsides within this far of heavy stuff. Spend a lot, as long as it's got a little bit of current. Everything's good. For open water applications, I use 50-pound braid. Okay, don't use 65, don't use 80. 65 will work, it can get you by, but the problem with the difference in line diameter from 50 to 65, it seems like it's almost twice.
Yeah.
And so that heavier line diameter going to the nose of Kermit restricts the movement of the bait. How many of you know how to work a Zara spook? Or I should say, how many of you don't know how to work a Zara spook? Okay, so everybody does. Okay. The most important thing with working the bait in open water, I use an 8-foot flip and stick for that. I don't use the 797. The 797 is the rod. It's a Lamiglass rod. It's the rod that I use when the fish are in the heavy stuff. And I need immediate hook penetration, and I need power to get that fish out of there. The 797. For open water applications, the 806 has got a softer bend to it. Okay, it's not cardboard bricks, you know, or cardboard box, or like a bunch of bricks. You know, that's about the way that 797 is. It's just a club. The 806, I'm a lot more accurate with it. Throw it up in there. If you got a Thule wall with some pockets in it, perfect place to walk your frog. Okay, pitch to the back of the pockets, let it sit for a second, bob the nose, and then start walking it out. And again, the frog, as well as the buzzbait, most of your strikes in open water are going to be within this far where that bait initially touched. A lot of times, as you know, you're pretty much done with this retrieve, so you start to wind it back, you will get a lot of those fish that will chase out and hammer it right there at your feet. That does happen occasionally. When you get bit on the frog, and this is the one thing, you know, when I'm guiding a lot of my clients, it's one of the first things that they always ask: when should I swing? When do I set the hook? I always tell them, just evaluate the strike And general rule of thumb is if you get bit, you see a surface disturbance, and you cannot see your frog swing. Swing. With the heavy stuff that we fish out here, him and I swing immediately. If you let that fish, and she's 6 pounds, if you give her that much, boy, the odds are not in your favor. Okay? So if you throw over there, you're coming over heavy weeds or some moss or whatever it may be, especially the viney weeds, if that fish, and she's a hot 4.5 or a hot 7 or 8, whatever, if she goes, ooh, you got a bunch of viney stuff, she grabs it right here. As soon as she comes down that far, you've got a lot more obstacles in between you, and now you're pulling that fish against the grain, depending on how this stuff is growing. So you're pulling against the grain. You've got all this stuff that's attached to the bottom maybe, and you are trying to pull this fish, and everything is locked up in here because you gave that fish that much. You see that disturbance, oh, you got it, and you got to hit her and come like this and just start hit and wind. Get that fish to the top and water ski that fish across if possible. Now, if the fish is 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 10 pounds, caught a 10 on Sunday, that fish, hit that fish immediately. Fish weighed 10, 11, or whatever it was. Hit that fish immediately, and she came right to the top, and I just pulled like this, and I backed up in the boat and got her, and she was going crazy. She got the outside of the moss, and then she took off. I can deal with her out here.
Now she's yours.
Yeah, she's on a tight line. We
It's-
just got to get on the troll, and now we got a big striper on.
Ball game's over.
Yeah, we just, the only thing that, when you get one of them big jokers clear, she's yours. She's in the boat. All you have to do is chase her down and keep 50% tension on that line. Not this, not that, because you already saw her. She's 7 to 10 pounds. Now is not the time to horse this fish. You have overkill equipment, and you have stuff that can come apart if you put too much juice to this fish. She's yours. Just take your time, because she's expending all of the energy that she probably would have expended if she would have stayed inside that junk.
Yeah. Wreck shop when they're in the weeds. I mean, just wreck their shop. Get them out. If they stay on as you're pulling them out of that weeds, I mean, they'll still come off now and then, but like Bobby says, once she's out into that open water, hey, if she digs, let her dig.
Yeah.
Tight line.
Don't pull on her as she's
this.
digging. These are extra large fish. Don't, oh, I got you now. Don't do that stuff. You could have a hook open up, the knot can, come undone.
And the bone structure in those big ones is so much more hard and brittle.
Just keep it tight. Another thing, you guys that use braided line, it's real important. We always throw our frogs with the braid. It's real important. How many of you have never used braided line? Anybody? Okay. When you tie your braided line on, you get you some braided line. The first thing that you do is put about 10, 15 yards of monofilament backing, pull all the line off your reel, leave 10, 15 yards on, tie a uni knot, your mono to your braid, tie it together, and clip the tabs. We want that knot to be as small as possible. Don't put 4 loops and 4 loops and then pull them together. It's going to make a big knot. It's going to make the line in your spool should be like this. It's going to put a bulge in it like that. Okay. So all I do is I go 1 loop, pull it together, because I'm never going to get down to this knot anyway. If I do, we got problems. Maybe I don't need to see this thing anyway if it takes me down to my knot, right? Do that, wind it up, and when you tie your knot on, I use a trilene knot, and I use a trilene knot, and Gary probably won't like this because he won't sell as much braided line. I use a trilene knot because with a Palomar, a trilene knot is extremely strong, and the only fish that I've broken off with a trilene knot was probably my fault. With a Palomar knot, every time you tie a Palomar, you've got this much of a tag end, right? So we got to clip that. Braided line is extremely expensive. If I retie 3 times today, I've used almost a yard of braid. Now, if I go fishing, 4 times a week like I do, 5 times a week, and I'm retired. I'm using the yard. I use 5 yards this week off one spool. Well, I only have 75 yards. I can go fishing a couple times, then I can't get that extra 2 or 3 yards at the end of my. And then 3 weeks down the road, I throw that thing. My spot's over there. I throw it, and it falls about halfway because I don't have enough line. I should have put some new braid on here. Okay, let me get my wallet out. Okay, braid's expensive. I use the trilene knot. Put it on. And then when I cinch it down, I never have to use my clippers because I cinch that tab down to right about to where I want it. And it's real important when you tie the braided line on that you leave about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch of a tab. Super duper important, especially the thinner braids. I don't suggest using 30-pound braid to throw your frogs, but if you feel like you need to, then go ahead. 50 is about perfect. But when that, see there's Chris's tab right there. I don't know if you guys can see that.
About a 1/4 of an inch.
That's perfect. Because that 1/4 of an inch knot, at the end of the day, if he catches 4 or 5 frogfish, you know, that average 3.5 pounds or whatever, a lot of tension, a lot of pulling, well, that tab is like this at the beginning of the day, but as day rolls on, that tab, it sucks down and it cinches at some point. Well, if you started right here at a 32nd of an inch, because with monofilament, we want to get that knot as tight, we want to clip that line as tight to that knot as we can. We don't want all that. Braided line's different. We want to have that out there like that, okay? Because it's going to cinch down. If you start right here and you get a big bass on and she's pulling, it's going to, everything comes undone. Oh, I broke my braid. You didn't break your braid, your knot came undone because you didn't leave a long enough tab, okay? It's very, very important. Very important.
Another thing that goes real important with that frog, along with the knot tying and all that, after you've caught a few fish on that frog and you're pulling them through heavy cover or out of tulies or under a dock or whatever, and this mistake has cost me and Bobby some serious coin. Take your frog, look at it, okay, that's the way it is, grab the hook, turn the frog around, point the hooks out, pull that frog up, and take a look at this ring right here. This right here can make or break your day. If you pull a couple 4 or 5 pounders or a 10 or 12 pounder out of that stuff, with this line and the heavy equipment we're using, every once in a while these will open up, okay? So after a few fish, pull your line through your frog, check it, okay, everything's money, good to go. Take the frog, pull your line back through, and cinch it right back up, okay?
Another time when you need to check that is if you make a long throw and you throw, like we fish tule walls a lot. We fish sparse tules a lot, especially with our buzzbaits. That's the main reason why we don't use the trailer hooks, because we, you know, that a lot of times our buzzbait up over the tules, back down into the water, dead tules all over the place. We don't need to fall on the side and that trailer hook grab a bunch of junk. You just completely ineffective throw. But a lot of times when we're throwing the frog in the same situation, sparse tules, piece of wood way in the back, a bunch of tules, and you throw that frog over there and it gets hung up in the tules, and you start to do this because you got braid, you're Superman, and it comes out. That's when I open that frog up and I go, okay, I'm still good, you know, because don't pull that frog out of there like that and it slides up the tules, and now that tule finally comes your way and it comes out, and don't go like this.
Check that ring.
Without checking that deal. Okay?
Like I said, it's cost us some
Check that figure
pulling.
8 deal, and you'll be in good shape.
I got bit, and he's done it too, but I won't talk about his, but mine was out there, twitch. Ooh, she eats it. Get the net. Hit her. She's coming. Oh. First thing he says, broke your line. I thought so too. Reeling back. Oh. And all I could see was my line tied to this silver thing, because this opened up because earlier in the morning we were on a bite where Bobby was talking about, where you're going down the tules and behind there, you've all seen them, were the pockets of moss. Big wind comes through the week, blows all the main moss out, but behind those tules are those nice little 8-foot round pockets of moss. So we're doing this, going up and over, getting 2 or 3 twitches on it and bring it back up. Well, as that bait's going up, sometimes and I was doing this. do I have to go in there and get that? He told me, I said, nah, I got it, you know, pull it out, you know. You do that 3 or 4 times, you go brain dead, you forget to check this, you get the bite, and once again, you didn't take care of the part that you need to be taken care of, which is your equipment, you know. And when this came back, he just looked at me and he went, and that right there means it's going to be quiet time for the next 20 minutes, okay? To me, that means, okay, you better make up for it right now, dude. So, ever since that happened, we check them big time. Take care of your equipment. You know, it doesn't take but 10 seconds to do that in a tournament. Oh, I don't have time to do that. Yeah, you do. 10 seconds is nothing, you know, because in the next 4 seconds, you might get that 8-pounder.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Any questions about anything? We'll go ahead and wrap this up. I know you guys want to get home, and I got to go look at some film. So, yes, sir.
It sounds like your boat's fixed in the front of the boat.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, most of the time we do. A lot of times, if we're flipping a lot in the springtime, and like Bobby said, if we're flipping, we're usually in trouble. But a lot of times, let's face it, in the springtime, you got to flip. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for Bobby to be here. Once again, we're hitting targets, okay? We never just go out, I don't care what time of the year, and just go cuckoo and throw everywhere. Everything's target-oriented. It doesn't make sense for me to be right here, elbows to elbows with him, okay? Because I know with him being up front, he's going to hit everything that possibly, from what our experience has taught us, could hold a fish, okay? But we might be going down a stretch at a pretty good clip. If I'm 20 feet behind him, okay, instead of right here with him, that gives that fish that 5-6 seconds to where maybe he flipped in there, we're moving, he recognizes the next spot, no bite, he's out of there. Well, maybe she just came out to that to see what was going on. Well, guess what? 17.5 feet later, here I come, and I'm in the same spot. If we're elbow to elbow, and he goes, oh, look at that pocket. Man, that should have been money. Nothing. And I come right, as his is going out, mine's going in. A lot of times you don't give that fish a chance.
That's when we're dealing with a specific pattern. We
Right.
recognize something that, you know, we got to have a break in the weeds, some sparse toolies with maybe an isolated piece of wood or multiple pieces of wood, but they were on the bigger, whatever it may be. A little subtlety in this particular bank or those particular banks that we're fishing. Key spots. She's going to be here. No, 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 yes. So, you know, yeah, we do a little bit of freelance stuff on our way to the next yes. But usually on all the yes spots that are like, you have a little flag that say, I'm a 3.5 and I live right here, you know, then usually those spots will get mine and his. And usually a different color, maybe a brush hog, maybe a beaver, whatever it may be.
We'll
little
mix
different
that up a lot too.
You know, so.
But yeah, most of the time we're fishing up in front because we're moving. You know, once we get into that certain tempo and that certain rhythm, then it's just, you know, Bobby knows through experience fishing with me, and I know through fishing with Bobby that if there's 5 money spots out there, I know Bobby's going to get 2.5 and I'm going to get 2.5. If there's a spot out there that may hold a 4 or 5 pounder that we're familiar with fishing through trial and error, we're not going to miss those spots, okay? What he doesn't get, he has confidence in me knowing that I will get that. You know, I'm watching where he throws and I get everything else, and then as he's on to the next target, I'm right back to where his key target was, okay? Don't just have a game plan, you know? And if you guys as a team aren't comfortable in fishing like that, then get in the back of the boat, you know? Once again, make everything right. Make it right so that when it happens underneath the water, you don't have any of that stuff to worry about, man, you know? I'll get in the back of the boat too when we're winging traps for 2 reasons. One, safety. You know, nothing worse than standing there, oh, there goes your hat, like a dead duck. Or if we're throwing spooks, because most of the time we're not right tight toolies or anything like that. We're out and we're throwing, okay? Then we get into a lot of fan casting, you know.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, when you talk about fishing the frog in the open water, but if you're throwing it back into thicker moss, do you still walk it the same way, or how do you?
No, then everything's
Sort of dead stick it? Or?
everything's going to come back with the nose pointing right at you. Some dead sticking stuff, yes, certainly. But for the most part, everything's going to be, you know, straight retrieve. You can't really walk that thing in the moss. Loose moss, brand new loose moss that we're on a higher tide, Where it's just a film, yes.
Yeah, when that frog hits, and
Very-
what he means by that is when that frog hits, that moss just kind of goes. That's fresh. That's the money moss. If you throw up on that moss and that frog just goes, oh, and the wind's been blowing it, well, guess what? You got about that moss is that thick. Good luck trying to get bit. But if it hits and that moss just kind of goes like that, a little dimple, and then right behind that all of a sudden you see this, you better hope everything's right.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Have you tried the snag-proof, they're like a stick bait, I don't know what they call them.
The weed demon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you used many of those? I mean, I was thinking about that as opposed to
The weed demon is the most underrated topwater bait that I know of. Yeah.
And we'll leave it at that. No, it's a great bait. It really is.
because you can throw it a lot of places you can't throw the spook.
Yes, you can. Yep.
And you can throw it every place.
And you can throw it about as far as you can throw a spook too. And it's got oh man. We don't have them here, but especially lily pads. Lily pads, that thing's awesome.
You know, and for you guys that are going to fish a snag proof tournament or just fishing frogs, another good backup bait that we didn't talk about here with the frog is coming in with the smaller size frog. That can be a treacherous pattern.
You thought you were going to win that thing two years
I
ago
thought that I could win the snag proof tournament 2 years ago
on the little guy.
with the small one. The guy that I was fishing with, I'd have him get their attention, and I'd come in with that black with the red flake small one, and I was getting some bites on there that were absolutely incredible. I told him the second day of practice, I said, I'm going to win this thing by a mile. If I can put them in a boat, I'm going to kill these guys. But, you know, once again, everything wasn't right mechanically. I got a few bites during that tournament and had the brain fart happen, and, you know, I just smoked 2 fish for probably 18 pounds. But that little frog is very underrated out here. Awesome bait. Awesome bait.
Have you spent much time with the wiggle log?
Yes, but so have you.
Trying to find out something that you know that I don't
The
know.
wiggle wog's a really good bait. It really is. And it's a versatile bait for snag proof. And you tapped into it, Jim, last year. You figured out how to take a so-called topwater bait that is specifically made for topwater and added a little twist with it. You let a little water get in there, and now you figured out a way, I can work this subsurface, or I can dead stick it on the bottom however I want to work that bait. That's a real versatile bait, that wiggle wog. And you get some bites on that that are incredible. You know, these fish out here, when that bullfrog bite starts happening, and you see the polywogs before they turn into bullfrogs, the polywog that's that long with the 2 little back legs, that wiggle wog can be incredible. You'll see them come from 8 feet away. It looks like somebody shot a missile out of a submarine. Oh, here she comes. Keep it coming, keep it coming. Come on, girl.
The wiggle wog is a bait. For those of you that throw the wiggle wog, the wiggle wog is definitely a bait where you've got to feel that fish at the end of your rod before you swing.
Yeah.
When I first started playing with the wiggle wog, I missed 70% of the fish that ate that thing. Maybe more, 80% of the fish, because I was, for the most part, watching the bait. I was watching the bait disappear, and I was swinging as soon as it would disappear. Come down, I'd get it down a little bit, and I'd watch them eat it, and I'd sit like this, and they'd pull and come off. Doggone it. So then they'd eat it, and I'd let them go, and then I'd sweep. And then I could start to really execute some cool bites.
It's a good bait.
Well, I was fishing it on the bottom, and I got line movement. I never felt a bite.
Right.
Just line
Yeah,
movement.
it's a good bait. Another good thing about that bait is, in the sparser weeds, that bait works as 2 baits. It works as a buzz bait. Ooh, she misses it. Well,
That's
guess
the way
what?
I like to fish.
We don't
I
need
do
to come
fish.
back
I
with a
don't fish
spook
at all.
now. We can just let that sucker sit on the weeds. No, don't grab the spook. I got it already. You know, it can be a deadly bait. It really can.
That it? That it?
Somebody's got to be thinking about something. Anything on lures, line, rods.
Okay, guys, yes.
I notice you guys always color the line black. Did you ever think of dark green, or would that?
I did green. I did green for a while. We did the blotch, blotch.
The old school.
I've done that.
We did all that stuff. The black pin. This pin right here, he doesn't put his boat in the water. I don't put my boat in the water without one of these.
Yeah, you got to have one.
We use this thing. I use this to
There it is. You win the prize.
I use this pen on all my little artwork on all my frogs.
Yeah, take a look at some of the stuff that he does on his frogs.
And I just, this and a Sharpie. And then I tune them up.
You know, and don't be afraid to get creative with your stuff. I don't know how many frogs I ruined
It's the same way
trying to get snazzy with them, but then when you get one that comes out and you go, oh man, you know. And what we talked about tonight might not work for you. Maybe the concept and theory get you excited and you may apply your own bait. Do it, because what we're saying is right for us most of the time, but it might not be right for you, Jim, or for somebody else. But take the basic concept and the theory on it, and if you got confidence in another type of topwater bait or a technique, use those concepts and those theories and apply your own style to it. You know, be creative. There's no one way to go out here and attack this river or the lakes with topwaters. You know, get creative with it. You know, don't be afraid to fail with it either.
You're doing topwater all day long. It's not one of those 2 hours in the morning.
No, no. To target the kind of fish that we target, no. You cannot. Yeah, there's those special times when you, hey, we're going to do this for 2 hours. We're going to get our 3 for 18, and then we're going to get a limit. The days of fishing for a limit with Bobby and myself are over, and that's tough for a lot of people that are just getting into tournament fishing, or they just drove 45 minutes from San Jose to come up here to fish. Hey, you don't want to go the whole day fish for 4 bites unless you have the mindset that says, I'm driving up there for one reason. I want to catch the biggest bass I've ever caught. And if you're going to do that, patience, discipline, and something on top. But you can't do it for 2 hours, get bored, and go, let me put on my 6-inch Cinco, which is a great bait. It's saved our bacon many times. I'm done doing that. I want to catch 2-pounders now. You got to have the stones to make up your mind with topwater. You know, do I have the discipline to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do? I'm really intrigued by this topwater fishing, but do I really have what it takes to really do it? Because you have to put so much time into it. Yeah, you're going to have the glory days, maybe 2 in a row. But if you look over your calendar, if you don't put the time in and take your time and make sure everything's right and go through the no bites, it's boring. It really is. But man, when it comes down and it all comes together, it's, you know, that's when me and him are doing high fives in the garage at 7 o'clock in the evening with a Dr. Pepper in our hand. Because we made up our mind. We're going to fish for 6 bites today, man. That's it. We're going to use big baits. We're going to stay disciplined. We're going to make the throw the first time the best throw. And if we get those 6 or 7 bites and we put 5 of them in the boat, we're going to win. And we proved that last August, late in August. We had 5 for almost 38. Well, how many bites did we have? 6 bites, okay? Number 6, which he talked about earlier, was one that was between 11 and 12 that I screwed up. Okay, you give us that one, we throw a 7-pounder out. We're talking about a 43 or 44 pound.
You throw 5.
Yeah, 5. I mean, but we went into that tournament saying, forget this. Let's all day long. This is what we're doing until the last minute to where we go. We got to go. And yeah, that was one of those crazy days. We had always talked about it. One of these days we're going to pull it off, and it happened. You know. So our goal now is we want to weigh 5 for 50 in a tournament. And I think in the next 4 or 5 years, I think him and I can pull it off. Everything's got to be right, no doubt about it. You know, Mother Nature's and the stars and all that's got to be right, but we got to be right too.